to schools outside of their attendance area. Now, I know some of you have students with both disabilities and general ed students, and so it can be really frustrating for a parent. You buy a house in a neighborhood, and you want your general ed student to be able to go to school in that neighborhood, and yet we're taking up 3 or 4 classrooms that could have general ed teachers in those classrooms and could incorporate all of the students that live in that attendance area. So we're always balancing. We always want to be our special ed students, our students first, they're Mount Diablo students. It's really viewed that way in this district. I know sometimes it doesn't always feel that way, but as an administrator of special ed, I'm constantly saying, these are your students. They live in your attendance area. They're your enrollment students. They need to be served at your school if and whenever possible. We only want to move a student out of their school of attendance if we can't serve them there, or if the parent has requested a transfer under NCLB or some other reason that they want the transfer. But if we can serve a special needs student at their home school, that's our obligation to do so. But at the same time, we never want to force students that are general ed students to go to another school because we've taken up all the space. So it's that balance. So as we looked at our autism programs, the other piece of that balance is the capacity, and I know, Christian, I'm probably not following my slides because I just get on a roll. The capacity of the principal at that site to be able to manage the IEPs, to be able to make sure that whatever's in that IEP is followed, because that's the site principal's responsibility, and to be able to attend all those IEPs and follow up on all of that. So at the high school, middle school level, we generally have, well, we always have more than one administrator. At the elementary level, we only have one principal. Another budget cut was elementary assistant principals were cut from the budget. I wasn't here when they were cut, but my understanding was a few years ago. So we do not have the luxury of having a principal and an assistant principal at a site so that they can share the load of IEPs and balancing special ed. So one of the things that we were asked by our cabinet, the leaders that are in the district, and by our elementary principals, is could we please look at our programs where we have 4 or more special ed classes at the elementary, and could we please try and limit it to 3 classes? They understand that we want kids to be able, if at all possible, to start school as a kindergartner at one school and go all the way through to 5th grade. That's our goal. That's not always going to be possible with kids in special ed. But whenever we can have a continuum of services, especially for our kids with disabilities that are in full-time programs, we want to be able to do that. They make friends at that school. They get to know the campus. They get to go learn the routines. We don't want to put an extra burden on students with disabilities to have to learn a new school each year. So as we looked at our programs, we're going, okay, we've got that need, but we also have a need to open new autism classes. We have next year, starting the school year, we have 56 more kids that need an autism-specific classroom than we did at the beginning of the year. So we've had 82 kids that have moved into our district during the year, from when we started school in August to today, that have moved in with an IEP that says they need to go into an autism-specific classroom. Okay, now we've had some kids move out, so the balance is now 56. Our autism classrooms average about 9 to 10 kids if we average in some of the middle school classrooms and some of the full inclusion specialists. So that's 5 new classrooms. So that's where all of these new classrooms come from. One of the questions I'm getting is, okay, so you've got classrooms, but you're moving an autism classroom. How are you going to work with that? We don't want to move classrooms just for the sake of moving them, but we also have to recognize that right now there's going to be a need to move at least 1 or 2 classrooms to create continuums. So let me show you where we ended up landing, and I'll kind of walk through some of this. Let's go to, so again, and I'll just kind of go back to this. I talked about the kids that are not in autism-specific classes. We have several kids that are in general ed that have autism, that are higher functioning, Asperger's kids, and things like that. We have several kids that are on resource teachers' caseloads. We have kids that are on full inclusion. We also have students that have a primary diagnosis of autism that are doing very, very well in SDCLH classes. We have kids that are in SH classes. So again, we always want to go back to the goals and objectives and what's the placement that's going to best meet the needs of that specific child. When it comes to classrooms, we designate our autism classrooms as strategic benchmark or intensive. And we used to try and ferret out the kids that were benchmark kids from the kids that were strategic. And it gets to be, and Lorian's not here, but we do have an autism task force, and at the end of this meeting you'll see the dates. It gets really difficult to ferret out a child that's in preschool, kindergarten, first, second grade, whether they're strategic or they're benchmark. And part of that is because you're trying to prejudge what their potential is. You want to make sure that you're giving that child every opportunity. So it's not always going to be a clean, this child's a benchmark child or this child's a strategic child. So those classes are pretty mixed up until they get to 4th and 5th grade. The other goal we looked at is because we want all of these autism classes to teach core curriculum, we were looking at some of our autism classes had 3 and 4 grade levels in those classes. It's really difficult for a teacher to teach 4 different grade level core instruction. Again, we're going